Hi, everybody. Welcome back. It is a super hot day in South Dakota. It is July 23rd. Corn sweat is real, and I am suffering under it. So I apologize if anybody can hear the fan. Audio quality out the window today because it is so hot out. I hope everybody has some kind of cooling application in their house today. If you do not, go to your public library because sometimes that's what they're for. Today, I'm super excited. I'm going to be talking to somebody who, I don't know, might be living the rural American dream. If we could all pull this off, the world might be a better place. Today, I'm going to be talking to somebody who's made local food sourcing, which is her self-described passion, available for other folks as well by creating a business on her own property. And so I'm really excited today to bring on with me Stephanie. Hello.
Hello.
And Stephanie represents Fruit of the Coop.
That's right. Thank you for having me.
No problem. So what part of South Dakota are you in?
I'm in southeast South Dakota, located between Sioux Falls, South Dakota and Brandon, South Dakota on a 7-acre farm.
And I know the website mentions that you are near the river. Does the river run through your property?
No, I have 2 small creeks that run through my property that are spring fed. They feed into a fairly decent sized pond on my neighbor's acreage. And then that goes directly, probably 250 feet from that is the Big Sioux River.
All right. And the Big Sioux River is the namesake of Sioux Falls, the city I live in and have grown up in. But it traverses a much bigger swath than just our city. It wouldn't be a river if it didn't. So
that's right.
With that area, is that where you've lived your whole life? Are you a lifelong South Dakotan?
No, I've been in and out of the state. I was born in Colorado to folks who has spent their whole lives in South Dakota. So when I was 1, we moved back to South Dakota. And so I lived here through high school and even went to college here at Augustana University. And then straight out of college, I moved out to Washington, D.C. and worked and lived there for 22 years and then moved back to South Dakota in 2014. So now I've been here just these last 10 years.
That from Washington, D.C. to back here, that is a huge change. That's huge. Yeah. Not just type of lifestyle, but as I mentioned, I usually like to find out in your part of the state what amenities and how far you have to go for groceries or gas or things like that. So you went from an urban living environment, heavily urban, I'm assuming, corner store, everything right there in walking distance.
Yep.
And we are not a walkable land. I mean, you can walk, but it'll take a long time to get to anything.
That's right.
So what was the most dramatic thing for you? What was the thing you missed most when you came here?
When I left DC and came back to South Dakota, a couple of things. I really missed the diversity in the demographic of the people that lived around me. I also still do miss that and miss the diversity in thought as well. I think that I experienced out there in DC. And also there is a lot, I was in a southern region, right? We were humid, we were hot, we were in the swamps. And the foliage is phenomenal in Washington, D.C. Everything is green, everything is robust. There's colors, flowers everywhere. I do miss that as well. So,
right. What was the first thing that, let's say on your 7th day in South Dakota, that you woke up and thought, you know what I do not miss from Washington, D.C.? It's this. What is the first thing you didn't miss?
Easy. The traffic and the heavy population.
Yeah.
Crowds everywhere. It took forever to get anywhere, do anything, go anywhere. Yeah. I don't miss that.
Right. And I feel like I've had friends that have lived in DC, and even they can be inside their own house and on the phone with me, and I can hear the city. And it's like, what is all that noise? And they're like, it's just there all the time.
when we first moved onto this acreage, we would sleep with our windows open in the, the warm months. And it felt like we would say to each other, it feels like we're camping.
Right.
Like there's
Right.
no sound outside except for the sound of nature.
Right.
So that was really amazing and still is.
Yes. And always is. Yes. As the city grows out to my part of the country, and I remember the difference from when I couldn't hear anything, and now I'm starting to hear things. And I'm like, what do people in the big cities do? Because even in the city of Sioux Falls, you don't hear the city 24 hours a day.
Yeah, yeah.
But then I know people that they love that. They're like, that's what I want. So
that's their white noise.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Their background noise.
Yeah, exactly.
Do you consider yourself, when I use the terms rural versus urban, most of the country would take a look at Sioux Falls and be like, well, that's rural. The town is rural. But do you consider yourself sort of in the middle or in the mix? You're not far from local amenities of any kind.
Yeah, I think I would consider myself kind of suburban in a way.
Suburban.
Yeah, I kind of in between. Because yeah, it's not really urban here, but I'm also not really rural.
Right.
It takes me 7 minutes to get to Brandon to get to the grocery store, and
Right.
I'm 15 to 18 minutes from downtown Sioux Falls. So, it's kind of the best of both worlds.
Right. And not far away, not rural in the way some of our state is, where like if you needed health care or you just wanted to go get a Slurpee or whatever, that's a big choice to run into the store in some parts of the state. So
yeah, it could be a 2-hour drive, right?
Right. Your business it's multi-layered. You've got the chickens.
Mm-hmm.
You've got Hip Camp, which we want to talk about, and an Airbnb, and kind of a small space for events if people want to have small events. If somebody were to host an event or stop out there, how loud can you get before the neighbors complain? Do you have a pretty good buffer from the next residential neighbor?
Yeah, I do. So we're on 7 acres. The neighbor to the west of me is on 11 acres. The neighbor to the south of me is 80 acres. And then I do have some homes that are closer on the north side. We are in a development of homes of about 40 to 45 homes out here on a dirt road. But I'm kind of on the edge of that development, so kind of spaced far away from the other homes. And yeah, you can get loud as long as it's not after 11 p.m. So
your business on the street side and party in the back.
Party in the back.
All right. Let's talk about the name of your business. Fruit of the Coop obviously comes from the chickens.
Yeah.
How long have you been Stephanie the Chicken Lady?
So I think I incorporated the business in 2016. So that's kind of when I was getting serious about it. At that point, I maybe had around 75 to 100 hens.
Oh my, that's a lot of chickens.
Yeah, yeah. And I had just, when I lived in Washington, D.C., we lived in a very urban neighborhood with very small, teeny postage stamp lots. Tons of neighbors everywhere. And I did have backyard hens there. I had 4 little hens in a teeny tiny dollhouse coop in the back. And that was kind of my start with the chicken business. And then
did you bring those chickens here?
No, I sold them to somebody out there. I didn't want to. We are ready to move here. We filled the minivan with kids, a cat, and a dog, and it took us like 6 days to get here. So I definitely didn't want to bring chickens on that journey.
I was going to say, I feel like that could be a reality show.
It could, yeah, exactly. Yeah. So, but no, I started fresh here, and I think I started with about 20 chickens. Because I am in a county controlled area, and I'm agriculturally zoned, so I really didn't need any permits to get how many ever numbers of chickens I wanted. So I started with 20, and at that point I had no intent to start a business. But as the population of chickens kept kind of growing a little, and I started getting so many eggs, my first attempt was to put flyers in all my neighbors' mailboxes to try and sell eggs locally to my neighbors. And I didn't really get many takers. So then at the time I knew of, I had a friend, not a good friend necessarily, but a friend that I used to work with on Capitol Hill who ran a breakfast restaurant in Sioux Falls. And that was Steve Hildebrand, who had Josiah's restaurant.
Mm-hmm.
And at that time, it was a smaller restaurant located in a different spot than it is now. And I approached him initially and asked if he'd be interested in buying eggs from me. So it was kind of an easy sell there at the beginning.
Right.
He was definitely into it. And I started with just 10 dozen of eggs a week to him to get rid of my excess supply. And that was so much fun. So I just kind of kept growing, and I kept expanding and adding restaurants and building my flock, and and then incorporating and really trying to make a go of it.
And right now, today, tell me again, how many chickens do you have? How many hens?
I usually hover between 150 to 200 laying hens right now. That's kind of my sweet spot.
And do you have any roosters?
I have about 5 roosters. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
So, and even with this number of hens, it's still not enough production to keep the restaurants in stock that I'd like to work with. I'm turning restaurants away right and left. And for many years, my business model was such that I bought eggs from other farms, and I acted as a wholesaler. So I had varying numbers of farms that I was working with. Sometimes I was maybe buying from 2 farms. Other years I was buying from 10 farms. And they were all farms that I had thoroughly vetted with regards to how they raised the animals, what they fed them, and what the quality of the eggs were like. So that kind of kept me afloat for a long time because I didn't have the supply on my end. And in the last year, I've backed away from doing that, trying to build up my own flock a little more. And actually, I've cut back on some of the restaurants I'm selling to.
Do you think some of the increase in demand from restaurants is just because of the high cost of availability that we've seen in the last couple of years? Avian flu, like I'd asked before we started if we wanted to talk, and I don't necessarily want to talk specifically about avian flu, but we do know on a broad scale that impacted the egg and poultry industry hugely.
Yes.
And then not just the cost, but even for people to find eggs.
Right.
Do you feel like that there were any restaurants that were new to you that all of a sudden were looking for a local source?
I didn't really experience that. I had individual customers who came to me when there's been an egg scarcity, whether that's the pandemic or avian flu outbreaks. I've had individual folks reach out to me to purchase eggs. Restaurants have stayed pretty steady, and I've mostly worked with the same 5 to 10 restaurants over the years, and it's stayed pretty steady, like
consistent.
I said. Yeah.
I do have, I have someone that, in part because of indignant about the price of eggs, but also their kids wanted to learn about urban chickens. So they live in a small Sioux Falls town, and it just recently, their town changed their ordinance so they could have chickens.
Great.
And she said, find out if she can tell me why my hens are laying soft shell eggs, even though I give them calcium.
So if it's happening sporadically, usually I see that when it gets really hot, like it is.
Oh.
And so excessive heat definitely causes them to do that. That's a common thing. I also would be curious as to what nutrients they're getting and what type of food she's feeding them. Because even if she does provide added calcium for them, which is important in the form of oyster shell usually, it's important to have a very nutritionally dense layer feed with all the vitamins and minerals that they need. So,
and the heat, is it just because the chickens are under stress?
Yeah, so their body is working so hard to keep themselves cool, and their natural body temperature is 107 degrees, so they're already hot.
Yeah.
So then you add this, environmental heat to it. They're really hot. So just trying, to cool themselves down. They don't have the energy to build the shell around the egg. So oftentimes, I've even had hens lay a shellless egg, where it's literally the white and the yolk that just come out.
Just a mess.
Yeah.
I feel for my chicken sisters today because I'm like, even my hair is like, I can't even control my hair in this weather, let alone
the chickens. The chickens hold their wings out like this all day, and they pant like a dog. So you could try that.
Because chickens don't sweat, right?
No,
chickens can't sweat, so they have to find an external way to cool themselves.
Yeah, that's
can't self-cool.
It's important to make sure they have shady spots to go into, especially if you can get them under some bushes or trees.
Right.
That's preferred.
Right. How hard is it to get up every morning. What's the start day on your little farm? What's the start hour? Are you up at 4 a.m.?
Oh,
Chicken
no.
under chickens?
I'm not a morning person. I'm a night owl. So I have basically automated everything out there. So I don't have to get up early with them. All of my coops have automated doors, and the doors open and close with the sunrise and sunset. And so I don't have to get up and let them out of their sleeping coop. The door opens and they are out free to range. And my feeders hold 50. I have multiple feeders that hold 50 pounds of feed at a time. So it's like I'm only filling feeders every 3 days maybe. And then I have 50-gallon drums of water, holding 50 gallons of water, and I'm filling those maybe once every week and a half. So things are very automated. And of course I'm collecting eggs every day, but chickens will lay their eggs from sunrise till maybe 2 in the afternoon. That's the most common laying time. So it's best to be out later in the day collecting those eggs anyway, once I'm sure everyone has laid. So I haven't figured out.
Once all the girls are done doing their business, and then they're out for tea.
Yes, then I go in, swoop in.
How do you handle predators? Have you had any foxes? Fox, coyote, badger, raccoon, possum. Do possums egg steal? I don't know if they do.
So yes, I've had pretty much every predator. Well, so I haven't had a skunk or a badger yet, or a mink, knock on wood. The minks are terrible, but I have had a lot of predation loss. And I because I free range and I let them out, free ranging over the 7 acres, I just go in every year knowing I'm going to have a certain percentage of loss. Right. And so I just know that I'm buying more birds, to make up for that every year. And that's just a risk I have to take because I want them to be raised naturally, because I believe so strongly in the benefits of that for both the bird and also the eggs that they produce are way better and better for us to eat. So I've had one summer, I had a fox that came back every single day for almost a month and took 1 bird a day. And it wasn't maybe 7 or 8 days before I even noticed it was happening, right? And I'd already lost, almost 10. So that was really frustrating. I had the state trapper from Game Fish and Parks out here multiple times, setting snares. We never did catch that fox. It just eventually moved on. And then because I have these 80 acres of pristine, untouched native hills next to me,
right.
I often get coyote pairs mated pairs that have dens over here with kits. And so I would say March, April area, they're teaching their babies how to hunt, and I tend to lose more birds at that point as well. I do a few things to try to avoid that. Sometimes I play radios out in the yard, which scares the predators away. I do have some portable fencing that I might just run in front of the tree line. And even though the chickens can go around it, it's kind of just, I know that the coyotes
disrupts their path.
Yeah, they're coming out of this one spot, and it kind of just stops that for a little bit. I have not tried to actively shoot the coyotes or the fox. I just kind of believe I do believe in a little bit of sharing. I can share a few birds here and there as long as it doesn't get carried away.
Right.
But the raccoons are really bad. And when I do have a raccoon, I take that really seriously, and I trap the raccoons and get rid of them as soon as I can.
Because raccoons will try and come and get in with the chickens, won't they?
Yeah, and my coops are very secure, so I don't really have to worry ever at night. But I have had them at dusk before the birds get in, and then the raccoons will just kill for sport. So they'll kill 10 birds at once and just leave the bodies. Whereas if a coyote is taking a bird, they're taking the whole bird. All I find is a pile of feathers, and they're eating it, and I feel a little better about that.
Raccoons are like ravers; they're just crazy.
Yes, exactly. So I definitely don't want them around. And then possums, people always say, it's controversial to trap and kill a possum, right? Because they do a lot of pest control on your property, eat a lot of bugs. But I have multiple times found possums where they've come into the coop at night, they've snuck in, and then the door shuts and they're in there with the birds and it's dark. And I've come in maybe an hour and a half later to check on everybody to make sure they're all safely tucked in, and the possum's in there and it's already killed 3 birds.
Because and some of that has to be, they kind of go into fight or flight mode. I'm assuming they want to get out.
Yes, yes. And so,
they
and what
kill their way
happens,
out.
exactly, that does happen. And what they're really interested in is when a bird wakes up in the morning, you know, they have a crop, and that's when they eat their food, all the food goes down into the crop, and it basically kind of sits there until nightfall. And so when they go to bed at night, you can feel this hard lump here in their chest. It's kind of like a golf ball, and it's full of the food they ate that day. So they go to sleep on their roost, and during the night, that food all digests down into their gizzard and then all the way out. So by morning, their crop is empty. Well, the possums seem to know that at night, the crop's going to be full. And so my experience is that the possums are, they're ripping open the crop to eat the contents inside the
Right.
crop. And then the bird dies in the process, but they're not actually trying to eat the bird.
Right.
So, yeah.
So it's multiple forms of waste in that way too.
And I can't stand that. So,
yes.
So I will kill possums and raccoons when I find them.
If they're,
I know it's controversial, but I got to protect my flocks.
Right,
so.
Right. Because basically they're coming into a part of your house. So,
yeah.
What do you think in the years that you've been doing this with this level of birds, what was your most successful year, like your most bountiful egg year?
Yeah, that's a good question. I don't know that I could pinpoint an actual year. It so depends on weather and what's happening for the spring and summer seasons. And, you know, if we have a late winter and we get, you know, a lot of deep snow in the late or early spring even, that's going to affect when they start laying, you know, more steadily again. And then also when we have this excessive heat, so summers that are super hot
Right.
are going to get less supply. So, yeah, it really is a roller coaster ride, right? Up and down, and it's different every year. So it's really hard to say.
How do you winter that many chickens?
So chickens do great in the winter. And I teach backyard chicken keeping classes here in Sioux Falls for community ed. And people always ask me if they should insulate their coops or heat their coops. And I always strongly encourage them not to do that. Like I said, they have a warm body temperature anyway, and you get even 6 birds in a small coop in the
That's
winter.
600 degrees.
Produce a lot. Yeah, it's going to produce a lot of heat in there. So, so they winter well, and there are breeds that are more cold hardy than others. Breeds that have feathered feet and have really low combs, so they don't get frostbite as easily. So my birds do really well in the winter. I do encourage them to still get outside every day, because just like humans, right? It's important for us to not be cooped up all the time, and we need our fresh air and our exercise. So I'm clearing paths from their coop to the barn, and I'm clearing paths throughout the yard, and I sometimes will give them flakes of straw to encourage them to come out in the snow and kick through something and pick through things, and stumps for them to get up on. Yeah, just like activities and reasons for them to get out. So they do pretty well. The biggest problem, I would say, is keeping water from freezing for folks that have hens. And there's a variety of heated waters that are available for sale. But once again, I use those 50-gallon drums. They have a submersible stock tank heater in them. So I basically just have to run extension cords out there, and they work great all winter.
Let's move into Hip Camp. What is Hip Camp?
Hip Camp is super cool. It's very similar to Airbnb. It's a company that strives to get folks outdoors and get folks camping. And what they do is they partner with private landowners, and then we basically put our land on their app. And someone who wants to go camping and doesn't want to book a campground, they can find a tent site on someone's private land.
And do you have to then provide amenities for them? I do not camp. I used to as a kid. We camped, whatnot. But as a grown person, I lodge. I hotel. I don't even glamp. For anybody that knows what glamping is, I'm like, why would I drag my big queen bed out into a tent? No. I would maybe stay in a yurt.
Yeah,
there sounds cool. But are you obligated to like provide a shower and bathroom and kitchenette for them?
So you are not. There's all levels of availability on Hip Camp, right? So, and at my farm, we do have all levels for folks that are more comfortable with one thing or another. So our very basic level is just providing a site for someone to erect their tent. And with that, they have access to the fire pit. we did put in an outhouse this year. So they do have a toilet. And then we have an outdoor sink that is potable water that they can drink and wash up with. So we offered that for our hip campers who are tent camping. You also, last summer, I just had the tent site. I didn't have the water, the sink, or the outhouse. And that was listed as primitive camping.
Right.
So you provide no toiletries and no potable water. And I still had folks camping. So I thought that was crazy.
And I know there are plenty of people that are much more rugged than I am that travel that way. And they're like, if I'm going on a long, I just need somewhere to sleep tonight.
Yeah.
And I'm going to get up and go tomorrow, and I'm going to shower at the Loves or whatever.
Exactly.
And a lot of people, you know, that you can just camp anywhere in the national parks as long as you don't start a fire. You can just make a tent and there's no amenities and things like that.
Yeah, dispersed camping.
Right. So I know that people do it.
Yeah, I had the people that stayed last summer, most of them were younger kids. And it was a lot of folks who were backpacking across the country, right? So they were starting in California and going all the way to New York. And they would show up at 6 p.m., put their tent up, and they'd leave by 6 a.m., you know, and that
so
was
they just needed somewhere safe to sleep.
Exactly. So, and then, so we have that level, but we also have the glamping option on Hip Camp as well. We have a Ford F550 shuttle bus that was converted into a tiny home. So that's just remains parked in a shady area here on the farm, and folks stay in that. And then they have the same amenities for that: the fire pit, the outhouse, and the outdoor sink. I have started this year, and we just added that to our fleet of lodging this year. And I've also offered a shower in the house for those folks. So I have a private shower on the second floor that is private to them. No one else uses it. And I have certain hours that it's available for them to come on in and go on up and use that shower. So that's helped a lot with getting bookings.
Sort of going back to predation. Have you had a mountain lion come through your property?
I have not. I know they've spotted them around the river, but I have never had anyone hear anything on here, and also our neighbors have never sighted any. So fingers crossed.
Yeah, I was going to say, how primitive is this camping? Might you have to capture a lion?
Yeah, right, exactly. Not quite that scary. I think it's pretty safe.
If somebody leaves at 6 a.m., but they leave a review on your site, we really enjoyed snuggling up with their big kitty. We'd be like, what?
Right.
What?
We know we have a problem.
Right. And your Airbnb is more of like the traditional Airbnb.
Yeah. So we also have the glamping bus is also listed on Airbnb as an option as well. But then we have a traditional Airbnb here I'm actually sitting in the Airbnb right now space, but it's basically the entire basement level of my I'm sorry, it's thundering right now, and my dog is terrified, so he's coming for protection from his mommy.
I hope. Oh, yeah. This big dog, protect me.
Right, he's 125 pounds, but he still needs me. So the Airbnb space is my basement, and it's a private walkout basement. They have a private entrance, come and go on their own. It sleeps 5. It's got a full bedroom and bathroom, a kitchenette, a little dining area, a family room, and then a rec room with a pool table and a ping pong table, and 2 twin beds in there, and then access to the hot tub and all the amenities outside as well. So,
and like you said earlier, you are just a hop, skip, and a jump from pretty much all of the venues in Sioux Falls. So if somebody was coming, even if they lived an hour away and they didn't want an hour drive to a concert or things like that, it's an easy stay and still be a quiet place, be a little bit of an adventure.
Exactly. And when I first started the Airbnb, that was my first foray into the agritourism and the lodging. I wasn't sure how it was going to go over. You have no idea, right? Is it actually going to book? Like, what's going to happen? And my initial thought was that I would have folks that are traveling on I-90 heading out west or heading out east, right?
Sturgis week.
Yeah, like people from other states and all that. But the first year, I really had more of that kind of rural South Dakotans who wanted to come to Sioux Falls for the weekend, do some shopping, see a show, go to a movie, whatever. And didn't want to stay in a hotel, wanted to still feel like they were kind of in the country. So I really have a ton of that coming through here, which is really great.
Does anybody get up in the morning and ask if they can go pick eggs?
I haven't had anyone ask really, but I do have a lot of families with kids, and when I know they're here, I tend to go out and when I see them outside wandering around the farm, greet them, introduce myself, invite them to go on some chores with me and that sort of thing. So
Right, right. And
yeah,
your chickens range your entire 7 acres.
yes.
So if somebody stayed there and they're there during the day, they might roll up and there's chickens just.
Oh yeah, they're all over. They tend to stay. I would say they really only cover about 2 acres. Like my chickens aren't going to go, 5 acres down the hill.
Well, that
They,
was going to
they,
be my question. How do the
yeah.
chickens know where the border is?
They're kind of, I mean, they're just, they have their instincts. The instincts are really on par, and they know they are prey animals, right? So they do kind of stay close to home or where they can kind of see the main coop, and I mean, they'll go into the woods, but really they don't go super far away. They're pretty smart.
And do you find that having that many birds and free ranging, do you ever see a mosquito? Do they keep your bugs down?
I would say they do a really good job with the bugs. I don't know how good they are with the mosquitoes. I feel like they're better with like beetles and ticks and things like that. They also increase
Right.
the flies on my property. You
Yeah.
have to realize that going in. I do combat that with, I do the live fly predators. I release a bag of these live parasitic wasps about once every month on my property, and they eat the flies. And that really, when I've skipped that some summers and noticed a huge difference in my fly population. So, I do some fly control. I have fly traps, that sort of thing as well. But yeah, I don't see a real difference with the mosquitoes. I think you would notice that better in a smaller backyard setting. If you had like 6 hens in your smaller backyard, you might notice that helping a lot.
When we talk about, obviously this for you is a labor of love. It's not just, I mean, your hands are on all your birds.
Yeah.
It's not like corporate farming where everything's in a cage and where you hire a team to go out and take care of them and things like that. And I know you had mentioned before we started your commitment to local food. What do you think if you had to sell to somebody the idea of we all need to be supporting local food? What's the first benefit that comes to your mind?
The first benefit that comes to my mind is, I would say, personal health. The food that you're eating is more nutrient dense when it's raised by a local small producer. Typically, those folks are caring more for the land that they live on. They're regenerating the soil. And we know, and we have scientific evidence that vegetables grown in regenerative, healthy soil actually have more vitamins and minerals inside the vegetable themselves. And the same can be said for eggs, right? Like they've done studies on store-bought eggs versus and from chickens that are in a confined animal feeding operation compared to free-ranging chickens. And the eggs themselves have a lot more vitamins and minerals than the store-bought eggs, right? They have less cholesterol, they have more vitamin A, vitamin K, magnesium, more beta carotene, more omega 3s. So, one of the greatest benefits, right, is the health for the humans and the consumers who are eating this local food.
And just a phrase that you said there that a lot of people might not be familiar with, depending on where they are watching this right now, or even if they're from South Dakota. But you see in the news the CAFO, CAFO, and that's combined animal feeding operation. That is what that is. And that is really what it is. They've combined a bunch of animals to one space, and they're just feeding them to mass produce, which obviously serves to feed many of us. But your birds are not just combined and fed and captured. They're not, you live with your birds.
Well, I really believe that animals should be allowed to live the life that they were designed to live, right? Like whoever you believe in, God or whoever, right, created these animals with the instincts intact to behave a certain way, right? And chickens are they originally stem from Southeast Asia, and they are jungle fowl. They thrive best free ranging and foraging in a tree canopy. That's their ideal habitat, right?
And that's because they came from dinosaurs, and that's why I'm a little bit afraid of them.
Exactly. They are little mini dinosaurs.
Chickens are just velociraptors with feathers. And we don't know, the velociraptors might have had feathers too. Those do not fossilize.
And you never know when a chicken's going to turn on you.
That exactly. I've definitely been out on the farm and had to run from bird life.
Yes, yes, they can be pretty vicious at times, and they're omnivores, and they also are cannibalistic. So yeah, they definitely could be a little dangerous. But I think animals shouldn't be basically bent and twisted to our to our needs and put in these confined operations. It's so unhealthy for the environment, for us, for the animal. I want the animal to live its true nature when it's providing for us. So.
Do you also garden? Do you produce produce for sale at your property?
I don't. I had a huge garden when I first moved here. And then basically I've replaced it with caring for animals. I much rather, I guess I would consider myself a rancher, not a farmer, because that traditionally means you're raising livestock. I raised goats for a number of years. We have horses. My sweet spot is animals. I wanted to be a vet when I was younger, and I actually went to college pre-med to become a vet at Augie. And my freshman year, they quickly weeded me out with pre-med chemistry, which I barely passed. So I switched around and got a government and international affairs degree instead, because that was also another passion of mine. So.
And I'm sure that you use those negotiation skills that you learned in government and international affairs when you're trying to talk to the chickens.
Yes, exactly.
You're like, you guys, girls.
You have to be the diplomat, right?
Right. You have to go inside. It's dark out. Go inside.
That's right.
I recently talked to Charlie Johnson. He's an organic farmer from up by Madison.
Yeah, I know Charlie. He's great.
Yeah, and he kind of talked about that too. And I said, "Do you have a big garden?" And he said, "Well, I'm a farmer, not a gardener." He's like, he
large scale crops.
Right. He's like, I can bring you an acre of this,
but
I'm not going to bring you 6 radishes.
Yeah,
that's
exactly.
different.
And also, I have so many friends, and I'm friends with so many produce farmers around here. So I can barter to get their produce. I'd rather support them and buy produce directly from them, because they really know what they're doing. So.
And how do you talked a little bit about that before too, that you're working to encourage local access to people for more than just your eggs and chickens. How do you recommend people seek out, well, kind of like how you discussed earlier, that when you were working with eggs that weren't your own, that you made sure that you vetted and trusted the people that were giving you the eggs, and then you were passing the eggs on. How do people locally in let's say the Sioux Falls, Brandon, this area, how do we safely seek out local food and know that we're really getting local food?
Yeah, there's actually a number of easy ways to do it. The first thing I'll refer people to is Dakota Rural Action, which is a nonprofit here in South Dakota that focuses on sustainable ag and energy issues and a variety of other issues as well. But they have an online local foods directory that's on their website, dakotarural.org. And it's got over 300 South Dakota producers listed in that directory. So let's say you want pastured pork and you want to buy, either cuts of the hog, or a half a hog, or a quarter hog. You can go on their website. You can type in pastured pork. You can enter Southeast South Dakota, because that's your region. And then you'll get, 5 or 6 farms that pop up with the phone number, so you can contact the farmer directly to purchase food directly from the farmer. So that's one really valuable resource. Also, I would direct people to the Dakota Fresh Food Hub, of which I am now working for. So they're also a great resource. Basically, the Food Hub is a group of local producers that are all members of our Food Hub. We have, I think, 16 producers right now. And the Food Hub acts as an aggregation center for those producers. So we take the products that those farmers are growing each week. We aggregate all that in one location here. We rent a cooler space from Minnehaha County Conservation District. So all the produce comes there each week. And then we take that produce and we are marketing and selling it directly to restaurants and delivering it to them for the producer. So so that's our wholesale side, but also Dakota Fresh Food Hub has a retail side, which if you just go to their website, which is dakotafreshllc.com, you as a consumer can just purchase local produce each week. Just pay. It's like an online farmers market. Choose what you're going to buy, pay for it online, and we have drop spot that you pick it up at each week. So
Okay.
those are two really easy options. And then, you can go to farmers markets. There's
Right.
tons of them right around town. Lots have sprung up, and it's a great way to meet the farmer face to face. Really talk to them about the practices they use, and what types of products they're selling. And then you also have the Sioux Falls Food Co-op and Pomegranate Market, which are local grocery stores here that sell a lot of local produce as well, local food. So,
what is a trick question if I was at a farmer's market, not local to me, I'm traveling and I go to a farmer's market and I want to find out if this person is legit? What's a good trick question for me to ask them?
Oh, that's a good one. I've never thought about that. I know all the farmers at the farmers market, so I know they're legit. But if I'm going, out of town somewhere, I think you kind of just get a feel. I use my intuition. Like if you go up and talk to a vendor, you can kind of tell by the way they're packaging their stuff. You can ask them, detailed questions about where their farm is, how big it is, what kind of practices they use when they grow. Do they use herbicides and pesticides? Are they practicing organic practices? I mean, most of, I find that farmers markets are generally honest places, and I rarely hear about,
Somebody
folks that are,
sneaking in with their
yeah,
Roundup.
yeah, exactly. And, and,
Yeah.
and, and most of the time, like our farmers market has a board that runs it, our main farmers market downtown. So they're already vetting those farmers that are vending at the market. So, typically there's an overseeing board of some kind that's making sure that those folks are legit.
I used to love stories when I was growing up of my grandparents' farm, how people would just drive up on the farm and ask if they could buy things.
Yeah.
And I thought that was a thing of the past, but now my brother runs the farm and he's like, yeah, people drive up on the farm and they want to buy things and I sell it to them. And I'm
Without, like, does he have a sign out or anything?
no.
Oh my
No.
gosh.
A little bit of it, I think, is that sense of community. Like you figure out who's what. When he used to have goats, he doesn't have goats anymore, but when he had goats and they were out front, like you could see the goats from the road, but
course.
There is that sense of if you're buying your honey from this farmer over here and you mention you're looking for duck eggs, he's going to say, well, go up the road and talk to so-and-so.
Somebody knows somebody usually.
Right.
So word of mouth is a great way.
Right. Even I have somebody that I overlapped with my life in business, and they told me, I raise, I have bees and I have honey, and they brought me a jar because I love bees and I love honey. And he's like, yeah, I learned everything from this old guy that lives up the road from me. And the old guys, he knows more than all the books. And then throughout our conversation, I said that old guy, who is that? And then I realized it's my uncle. Oh my I'm like, that's my uncle. He's your old guy teaching you about bees. So I had to call him right away, and I'm like, you're the old guy.
Oh, I love that. So where are you from, Jen?
I am from Sioux Falls my whole life, but I have family in south of Sioux Falls in the Lenox, Worthing, Davis area that farms.
Okay.
So it was kind of like just one of those funny things where it's like, it does not matter how big this town gets. We are a state full of small towns.
It's so true.
Yeah, our state is one big small town.
Yeah,
so
it is. I run into people I know in the weirdest places all the time, and I'm just like, it seems weird, but then you realize how small our state is, and you're like, it makes sense actually.
Right.
Oh.
If somebody was thinking, I want to do what they do, I want to move out of the city, and I want to start from scratch, chicken scratch. I want to start from scratch. What do you advise? What's the first concern? Is it going to be size of the land, or is it going to be access to amenities, or what's the thing that they probably don't think about? I know everybody thinks I'm just going to put a chicken coop in my yard and the chickens are going to take care of themselves.
Yeah, it doesn't always work that way, right? Well, I think, size of the land is something to definitely consider. Land access is a big issue. And it's really hard to access acreages and land. So that's a challenge. And I think sometimes people also maybe bite off more than they can chew. And I would say smaller is better. Mm-hmm. It's like slow growth is the best way to go. I mean, I didn't really I still haven't quit my day job, so to speak, right? Like this is not going to be everything and make everything and allow me to just do this 100% of the time. So I did a real slow growth over the years. and nothing fast. I mean, I've been here for 10 years now, and just I'd say in the last 3 years have really built up the business. But like I said, I'm still, working another job. So start small. I think that's the most important thing, and don't think you're going to just move on to a place and all of a sudden you're going to be growing all the food your family eats and you're not going to need anybody else. And I think, community, right? Like you really still need to lean on your neighbors and your community members. And I really think in South Dakota, that's something we're not super good at. There's such this individual like mindset and like, I'm going to do it by myself. I don't need anybody, and I don't know where that comes from, but I feel like I see that a lot. Whereas when I lived in Washington, D.C., in a very, very urban, tight neighborhood with people right next door to you, the neighborhood community network was so much stronger than it is here. Everybody relied on everybody. Like if it was my neighbor asking me to watch her kids for a couple hours because she was stuck in traffic, or if it was, somebody coming over to borrow something for a recipe that they didn't have, like neighbors were in your yard all the time. Like we got kind of sick of it sometimes, like go home, we want some space to ourselves. And so like here, I'd love to see people rely more on that, and get to know the people that live near them.
And I think in the smaller towns, that's maybe a little more true, especially since you're probably related to half the town.
That's probably true. Yeah.
And I think that in the, I do think some people in South Dakota and in Sioux Falls and in town in here feel like we've chosen to live in this place to not, like if they live somewhere like you did before, because they wanted to get away from that. They're like, I want to be distanced. And
I don't want to like be friends with everybody.
Exactly. It's that combination of that pioneer spirit when they talk about they came out here by themselves and they plowed the land and they did whatever. But even when you look back at that, at some point, everybody's dependent on somebody else.
That's right.
You can't be completely alone. So
yeah, that's right.
Well, I appreciate you answering all my weird questions. I'll definitely pass on my question about your chickens are overheated. They need need a fan like Beyonce.
Yeah, exactly.
And if you had a closing thought for everybody, whether or not it's about your business or South Dakota or just life in general, what would your closing thought be?
So obviously buy local food, support your local producers. That's a huge one. I also encourage people to check us out because we have some really fun events coming up this year. We're doing a flower workshop. We have a kayak event this Saturday. We're doing hot air balloon rides and breakfast in September. And then we're starting a farm to table dinner. So we're doing a big seafood boil with Chef Inca from Swamp Daddies. And we're doing another big All-American cookout in September with Chef Ryan from Dakota Links. So we have a lot of fun ticketed events out here. So check us out.
All right. Thank you, Stephanie.
Thanks, Jan. Appreciate it.
Bye, puppies. And that storm that started at her place has hit my place. That's why the light has changed so much. It's gotten so dark because I don't have the overhead light on and it's pouring rain. So welcome to South Dakota. If you complain about the heat, 30 minutes later, your basement will flood. I do concur. Shop local, live local, support local, local food, local art, local everything. As we look at all the crazy stuff going on in the world, on the local, national, international level right now, the solution for some of us is to make connections, get to know people face to face, get to know about them, what they live like, where they live, and learn how to barter again. If you don't think you have something to offer, you need to kind of look inward and look at that yourself because everybody has something to offer. So take care of each other. Stay cool, stay dry. Have a good afternoon. Coming up next, one of my next videos is going to be very controversial. We're going to talk about county fairs and who is the best county fair. So get ready for that fight. Bye.